Good evening, folks. Welcome back to another Monday night live stream. How's everybody? I hope you're all doing very well. I hope you're enjoying this bit of nice weather that we're having at the moment. Hope you had a lovely weekend. Tell me what you've been up to. Tell me, have you had any games over the weekend? Have you been doing a bit more painting, a bit more hobbying, or have you kind of kicked back, had a bit of a barbecue and enjoyed the sun with a couple of beers? We've got a good crowd in, as we always do tonight. We have, let's see who we had. We had Peter Cooman in, was nice and early. He said he's just started painting, so he thought he'd come in and set up. Why not? Peter Nicholas was in nice and early as well, saying, I shall be here later, can hardly wait. Mark Berracloth, good evening to you, Mark. He's saying that he'll be working, but he's going to be keeping an ear on it. Well, hopefully you can hear this, mate. Thank you very much for dropping in. Andrew Pierce is saying he's going to join the party when the kids are fast asleep. Yeah, my little boy, luckily tonight, was kind of flat out. I think he's had a bit of a busy weekend. Late night last night, early morning this morning, flat out. Glenn Griffin says, evening BlackJack, so hyped for this live stream. I've dropped in early. Nice to see you, Glenn. Barry's in as well, saying, howdy all. Hope everyone is staying safe, especially in the US. Things are not good here in Chicago area, and I know others are just as bad. I can't pretend to know the ins and outs of the full situation and just how bad things are in certain areas, but obviously we're seeing a lot of it more on social media. Basically, I haven't been watching a lot of news, to be fair. We're seeing a lot more of it on social media and things, and all I can say is, I hope everybody watching tonight, I hope all of your families and friends and stuff are safe, and hopefully there's kind of some kind of resolution that brings this back under control, because it's just. It's out of control, basically, isn't it? And I guess for good reason, but sometimes violence doesn't solve violence sometimes. But yeah, Phil Wilkinson says you keep having these when I'm drunk or hungover. I blame you, Andy. I think you'll find me. I have these at the same time every week. I think you keep getting drunk or happen to be hungover at the same time I'm doing it. 6 on the head. Nice to see you, mate. How are you doing? Nice to see you in, sir. We've got Different Gear TV. Hello there as well, mate. It says, yep, stay safe, keep washing them hands. It helps the paint stay on your minis for a kick-off, especially after eating crisps. We got Christian in as well. Hello, mate. How are you doing? I saw your Patreon mug arrived today. Nice to see them starting to work their way out to people. He says, hope everyone's well and our American friends are safe. Yes, I echo those thoughts as well. We've got Steve Evans in saying, evening all. We've got Robert Zunk in saying, all right, I made it. Going to be back and forth though. Well, nice to see you in mid. Fat Cat's in as well. Good evening, Fat Cat. Simon Parfit says, evening peeps, 40k doesn't float my boat at all. Zero interest in playing. I do like some of the models though. And yeah, as Palmsy's saying there below, tonight isn't kind of 40k focused, to be fair. There's a couple of things that have brought up this topic. One of them is the fact that obviously 40k's got a new edition coming. With 40k and a new edition and a big release from Games Workshop comes the hype train, and also the fact that John Estelle, if he's around in the chat, just posted a comment on the Facebook group last week, and I found it really interesting. I won't say what it was at the minute because I'll come on to it when I go into the main chat, but it did kind of set the cogs kind of whirring in my head a little bit. So tonight we're talking about hype really, and about not getting caught up in the hype. And I want to clarify that before we kind of go into the chat. This is not me kind of like last week saying nice things about 40k and this week saying, pooh, don't even look at it, it's an awful game kind of thing. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not kind of flip-flopping or anything like that. This is not even directed at 40k. This is about getting caught up in the hype and really kind of feeling like getting to that fever pitch point, which is exactly what these marketing campaigns are designed to do, be that 40k or a Kickstarter or something from Mantic or somebody else, whatever it is. These marketing campaigns are designed to make you feel that if you don't buy this, either one, you're going to miss out and you won't be able to buy it later, or two, you'll be the only person that didn't pick this up. And that's what hype is. It's when it gets a hold of you and it makes you think you have to buy it so that you don't miss out on it, even if it's not something that you really want. And then weeks and months down the line, you get a buyer's remorse of like, why on earth did I get this? I haven't even unboxed it. It's still in the shrink wrap, that kind of stuff. So there's a fine line between getting excited and getting hyped for something that you're really, really interested in. I'm all for that. I'm all about that kind of positivity and getting excited about the stuff you love. The flip side of it, what I want to talk about tonight, is when that marketing machine gets a hold of you and makes you think you want something that you don't really actually want. That's what we'll be talking about tonight. And like I say, it's not limited to 40k. It's relevant for lots of things in life, but obviously we're talking about tabletop games tonight. We've got Mark Colley in as well. Nice to see you, Mark. Tony Booth-Leiden says, evening all. Look forward to this tonight. Had a crap few days and always feel better after a bit of BlackJack Legacy. Well, I'm sorry you've had a crap few days, mate. But yeah, let's start as we mean to go on. Let's get a smile back on your face tonight. I can't guarantee we'll be talking about black pudding and jellied eels and stuff like we did last Wednesday. But I'm sure we'll have a good chat. Scott Longworth's in. Good evening, Scott Longworth. Well, John Estel is in tonight. I actually want to say thank you as well to John Estel. He upped his pledge today as well and went up to the next pledge level. Thank you very much. And I also want to say thank you to Adrian Starkey as well. You'll see their names up the top here. Both of them did that today. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. John says he's not painting tonight. He's just having a relaxing evening and watching. Nice one, mate. James is in as well. James Zorm says, greetings all. The only thing that makes Mondays worthwhile is here. Thank you very much, mate. It's nice to have you along. Thank you very much to Matt Mountain as well, who's just donated £2 for the super chat. Says, join the hype train. Choo choo. And Krabby Vision says, well, hello there. Do you come here often? I tend to come here every week, mate, but I'll see a few familiar faces. Aggression's in as well. Nice to see you, mate. Steve said he comes here every week. Where are we at? We talked about that last Wednesday meeting where we had, because it all just jumps off the top of my screen and then I've got to try and scroll. I wish it just kind of scrolled a bit, but what it does is it just goes poof to the bottom and then I've got to kind of find my way back up it. I need like a 30-foot screen, I think, to try and keep it all on. Right, I think we've got back to where we were. We've got Matthew Wilkinson in, says, yo, nice to see you, Matthew. We've got, is it Gillian, or Gillian 80? I apologise if I butchered your name there, my friend. She's working on some Hackaslam starter models. Excited to try Infinity when N4 comes out in the future. I started filming my Infinity video today after finishing all my models. So we should be seeing that on Friday, all things going to plan. Brian Martin says, hello all, checking in at work before I head home. Nice to see you, Brian. Claudio's in as well. Nice to see you, mate. Krabby's always looking forward to Monday banter. Got Robert Marshall in as well. Peter Kuhlman's doing his Mason Labs. Steve Pegg's in. Palmsy's saying, just got an ad for a pretty cool looking plant pot. Might get one. Get two, mate, if it's that cool. Red Wells in as well, saying, good day all. Tim Kelly's in, says, hope you're all feeling good. We've got Mike Wyant in as well. He says, hey guys. Jonathan Elgie's in as well. Let's have a look. Tony Howell's in as well, saying, evening, my lovely BlackJackerinos. Jimmy G says, evening all, waiting for Midland Miniatures to open. Need more paint. Are they not open yet? I assumed they were doing some kind of not deliveries, but like sort of door drop-off stuff. I didn't think that they were still closed at the minute. I'm waiting for some of the hobby stuff to kind of open again as well, just to get my hands on bits and pieces. I've been ordering paint like to be delivered from online, and I've never done that in the past. And what you end up doing is, I only wanted like 3 or 4 like pots of paint to top up bits that I've kind of like I've run out of, and I end up buying like loads of extra stuff just to justify the postage. Otherwise, the postage ends up being like, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to pay £4 postage or something. I could get another pot of paint for that, and before you know it, you're going, but it's free postage if I can get like 60 quid or something. So yeah, I'm waiting to the stuff that I like to just kind of pick up like kind of locally. Yeah. Luke Pryor's in as well, saying, evening BlackJackerinos, all aboard the hype train. Any CMON Kickstarters live at the moment? They're not, but we do know there's a CMON Kickstarter coming soon, which is the Masters of the Universe one. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to ship to the UK. Martin Nichols says, why are you buggers? First live stream I've made. Nice to see you in, Martin. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got Dave McCain as well. See, I remembered how to pronounce it this time, mate. Blizzards is in as well. Allergies and all. Oof, keep your sneezes to yourself, mate. We've got Brennick in as well. Peter's almost out of Calaban Green. We've got Luke 7920. Good evening, everyone. He's second time here, practically part of the furniture. That's it, buddy. You just kind of pull up a chair. There's a can of beer in the fridge for you. Help yourself. We've got Chuck and Deb Taylor in as well, saying, had a curfew here. Took the opportunity to finish 12 dwarf minions. That can't be bad, then, can it? Why not? Make the most of it. Bobby Clark's in as well, playing his Primaris Captain and Librarian today. Tony's been working on some scratch-built Secret Squirrel bases. I think that might be something to do with our our Patreon mini exchange that we've got going on. If anybody's interested in that, I'm sure somebody in the chat will tell you more about it, and you can head over to the Patreon page where from as little as $2 a month you can join and get access to the Discord group where this is all happening. Scott's got his 150 points, a dead zone team finish this morning. Nice one, mate. That's it. You're finished for the challenge then. We've got DJ Todd Harrison as well. Says greetings and salutations from Ohio across the pond, working on his hard city minis, surviving the COVID and COVID lockdown. Oof, yeah, take it easy, mate. Take care. Got James Hanna in as well. Matthew saying his state's under lockdown again. Brian Martin says, are you guys getting any games in? We're pretty much back open here again. I have a huge basement with table and scenery, and he's been inviting the regular guys over and only one taker. To be honest, mate, no, we're not back to normal. We've been slightly sort of reduced the lockdown a little bit. It's been eased a bit, so we are now allowed to see like another family, if you like up to 6 people, as long as it's in a garden, kind of outdoors. You still have to stay 2 meters apart, so gaming's still a little bit it's still a bit of a grey area really, because in theory I could play a game against somebody, so they take a step back and I take a step forward and play my bit, and then I take a step back and they play their bit. But in reality we're going to be ending up touching models and all that kind of stuff, so playing strictly by the letter of the law, gaming's not really kind of like a possibility. You certainly can't be inviting people indoors into your house. So yeah, I think we're a little while away from that at the minute. I'm sure some people are just choosing to kind of ignore them rules in the UK or whatever it is. But yeah, for me, unfortunately, no, it's not been a case where we can do that yet. Todd saying all of these 40k minis are being used for Star Breach games right now. Tim saying, yeah, they've got a Kickstarter for graphic novels. I just saw that, mate. I saw that yesterday as well. Brian saying they aren't meeting at a local game store yet either. Yeah, our game stores can start to open from I think it's from the 15th, which is basically 2 weeks today. But they're not going to be opening for gaming. They're going to be opening so that you can go and purchase kind of hobby supplies and stuff, really. So the ones that haven't been doing online orders only, you will be able to go to the store and kind of get the supplies that you need, but there'll be no kind of hanging around. There'll be social distancing, all that kind of stuff. So things are gradually kind of moving, but I honestly think we're a little while away from playing games at the moment. Krabby says you're always hating on 40k. Not at all, mate. Got Stotty's man cases. All right, mate. Hope all good. The hype is the best part. Nothing lives up to hype. And that, to be honest, mate, that is probably the problem. Nothing does live up to the hype. And I think that basically there are a lot of people that can get caught up in the hype. And to be fair, I'm no better than others. I'll talk about the new stuff. I'll get people interested in things. And maybe I'm a source of hype at times as well. And it's not intentional. I don't do it to try and drive you to spend money. I don't try and do it to get you interested in something or get you kind of hooked on something you're not even the slightest bit interested in. I'm just trying to kind of make you aware of things that potentially you're not aware of and stuff that I'm interested in. So yeah, maybe I don't help the situation, but I'm certainly not trying to hype up things to make a sale, if you like. Phil Johnson's in as well, says, problem with 40k is I don't need Marines or Necrons, but I do need the book. But that makes the starter box a good deal. Yeah, I think we're kind of, maybe I'm kind of catching up now where we're doing for time. I think I'm catching up with where I was saying this wasn't specifically about 40k tonight. Matt Mountain's saying, hey, BlackJack, how's it going? It's going really good. Pomsy's saying, hype really gets me bad, but only generally if I want the thing in the first place. I think I'll come on to it when I start talking, but remind me. Todd's saying about FOMO is a terrible thing. Fell for it with Resident Evil 2. Talk about buyer's remorse. Peter says an ad on the GW site where they actually said get it before they're gone. Hype alert. Yeah, potentially, mate, yeah. Mountain Gremlin Games says hello. Good evening to you. Hope you're well. Pomsy's saying Black Pudding gets me hyped. J-Sub says, you a Rams fan? I am a Rams fan, mate. You won't be able to see, but I've got my Rams caps and stuff over there. My Rams t-shirts and stuff are all hanging up in my Rams hoodies. I'm actually I've just been looking on the NFL store now because obviously we've got the new uniforms now for this season coming. So yeah, I've been kind of deciding whether I want to spend any money on a new shirt. I always get a Rams kind of NFL jersey. I'm not overly impressed on the new design, but when you're a fan, you're a fan. Do you know what I mean? Where does that just pop off there at the top? Marco's in as well. I'm at the point where Matt donated there. Thank you very much, Matt, again. Marco saying hello, everyone. Thank you, Marco, for sharing my little dance video again for tonight. Claudio saying painting scenery right now for his I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, for his project. Still have to watch the last 3 Wednesday streams. That's it, mate. Now I'm so behind on my podcasts and YouTubes. Just start. Don't worry about it, mate. Put them on if you've got some time, but don't worry about catching up. Peter Kuma says, put it on live chat, Andy. Thank you, mate. It's done it again. Thank you. I've obviously been missing loads of comments. Sorry, fella. Sorry. Rui Luis is in as well. Says, hello, everyone. Robert Zunk saying he's the main entertainment for Mondays. John Francis in evening all as well. We've got George as well. Says, got in early, but might have to put the news chickens to bed in a bit. No worries, mate. Krabby says, new t-shirt, where we at? Tell me about it, mate. Simon Yorkson as well, saying first time catching the live stream for a little while. Thank you very much, mate. We've got Derek Hodgin. Nice to see you, Derek. Where are we? Derek Short says he's running short of plastic grooves. Scott says his Boys in Bladen is open from today, who sell GW paints. Yeah, it's a bit of a hike, to be fair. I mean, to be honest, I think within the next few weeks we'll start to see. Obviously, Battle Bunker in Sunderland is starting to open again. We're going to see the Games Workshop stores opening as well, I would imagine. We've got Doug in as well from 2 Plus Tough. Says, hey, buddy, nice to see you, mate. How are you doing? Loving your stuff lately, mate. I've been watching a lot of that while I've been painting while I'm painting in my own hobby time. I've been putting some of your stuff on, mate. So thank you very much for that. It's funny to watch other people's live streams, because I always feel a bit awkward about kind of commenting and stuff like that, because if I'm sitting painting, I don't really want to kind of sort of get into conversations. But yeah, I'm often kind of lurking in the background, mate. Scott's in his 3D printing his Masters Universe stuff. I saw those, mate, in the group. Barry says Luton Gaming Store opened this past Friday and Saturday. No in-store gaming, but shopping with limited numbers of shoppers. I think, to be honest, Barry, it sounds like your kind of restrictions, if you like, are very similar to where we are as well. Blizzard is saying it's the pollen. My wife's starting to get kind of a bit of hay fever as well. I can feel the back of my throat getting a little bit. I missed mentioning that as well. Arnold with his super chat as well. Thank you very much, mate. I will treat myself to a cup of coffee. My local drive-through's just opened again now, so you can do. They've got this really funky little kind of system now. So you obviously come through the drive-through, you speak into the little screen thing and tell them what you want. As you come up to the window, they've got this metal box thing that basically they put your coffee cup and stuff in, and they kind of pull this lever, and the whole thing cantilevers out into the distance between where your car window is and where their kind of shop is, and then you can just kind of lift them off, so you're keeping your distance from the store. It's kind of funky, and I can see that kind of stuff sort of working quite well elsewhere as well. So the things you need to do, mate, I never realised how much I'd missed caramel latte. Brandon Rutter says, any child of the 80s will finally have the power. Yes. Christian says, he said Patreon. Thank you very much, Christian, for sharing the Patreon link. Patreon's doing really well, to be fair, at the minute. I think we're up to about 85 at the moment. Fortunately for me, because this is now my business and stuff, and I rely upon Patreon to support that. It's grown every month, and all I want to do between now and kind of sort of the next 6 months, really, to kind of I've obviously got to keep reassessing if this is working or not. Otherwise, I have to go and get a proper job again. As long as it keeps kind of growing a little bit each month, that's fantastic. So some people will drift away, new people will join. As long as I can kind of just keep it ticking over, keep it growing, all's good. But yeah, as I mentioned the other day, I think I did, what was it? I'd averaged about 15 videos last month. It's gone up from where I was doing a Monday night live stream. I'm kind of putting out 15 videos a month now, which is way above what I was doing. My little boy went back to nursery today as well, as the nursery's opened in the UK. So I had a full day today. It's really my first full day of actually doing proper work. So I got the script written for my Friday's video. I got some B-roll stuff filmed ready to kind of slot into the main video. I'll get all of that recorded tomorrow. So that'll be Friday's video ready to go. I feel like I'm kind of starting to see the future a little bit now. So yeah. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what kind of stuff you want to see as well, because I've obviously got this month kind of planned out now. But yeah, next month's open. Next month's still open. Where are we at? Scott said he's stuck with what I'm painting for my mini swap. I've not even started yours, mate. I'll have to give that some thought as well. Jason said, important question. Should I go all in on Elia Chronicles? Be honest, your opinion is appreciated and respected. When you say all in, mate, the all in pledge is quite expensive, isn't it? Are we talking like £300 odd, aren't we? What I would say is, and this is my completely unbiased opinion, I wasn't paid to make them videos. They sent me a demo kit and I kind of made them videos. I really enjoyed the game when I played it. It felt like very different to other things I'd played. Because you were almost playing a bit of a choose your own adventure type thing. There is points in it where you get to make different decisions. I like the way you don't know what the story's going to be. Because obviously, like you don't get the end mission, if you like. What you do is you need to get to the ship. And when you get to the ship, if you successfully get there, then you find out the next part of the story, and you might have some choices to make. I really like that mechanic. Will it become a little bit stale over time? Is there any replayability in that? I'm not so sure how much replayability you'll get, especially if you're playing solo a lot of the time. However, there's going to be a lot more kind of missions and things in the main game when it's finished, and if there's more kind of like sort of forks in the road, if you like, and forks in the story than there was in the demo kit that I've got, then there will be a bit more playability. Miniature quality was absolutely fantastic. I've got no kind of qualms about the miniature quality. So if you're buying it for the miniatures, don't worry about those. They're obviously metal miniatures, but they're of a very high quality. Price-wise, getting in for that kind of initial pledge, if you like, as just the kind of cardboard standees and stuff, I didn't think was too bad. However, the only thing I would say is the cards you flip that basically activate the dinosaurs, I felt they could potentially do with a little bit more work, because there were a few times when I kind of felt like I flipped a card and not much happened, and then I flipped a card again and not much happened. Now, I appreciate that this was like a kind of like a beta version of the game. It's not fully finished. I also appreciate that the dinosaurs I had were designed to kind of almost kind of hit and run. And if there was nothing in range, they wouldn't run out and get stranded there kind of thing. So maybe it was just the dinos that I had. But personally for me, I think it's a lot of money for the all-in pledge. I think I personally wouldn't do the all-in pledge because I think it's just a lot of money to kind of to dive into a game. If you're interested in it, I'd be tempted to kind of dip my toe in with maybe some of the minis and the game itself, but it depends. Money's conditional, you know. Money might not be an issue. If that's the case, then go all in kind of thing. Are you better off going all in with that and spending £300 odd on it, or are you better off spending half of that on that and channeling half of the money into something different and kind of weighing up your options, if you like? That's where my head would be at, mate. Paul Jones says, "Yep, nice to see you, Paul." I think Paul Jones. Why do I know that name? Have you just joined the BlackJack Legacy group, mate? Is that why I've remembered your name? Nice to see you, mate. I think that was you. Margot says, the way we had drinking game starts. God, I'm getting behind now. I need to catch up, don't I? Let me flick forward. Brennick's printing off his Grimdark Future to try at some point. Nice one, mate. Brian says, click the like button. Yeah, I don't know. I've got no idea how we're doing for likes and stuff like that. We've got Scott saying 96 in the chat already. I think we're up to 112 now, mate. That's not too bad, is it? I think I better start getting on with the topic in a second as well. We've got Gene in as well. Nice to see you, Gene. John Francis saying he wasn't working tomorrow. I'd be on the whiskey for the drinking game. We got Dax the Destroyer in, says some of us play Space Marines and Necrons, the perfect box, hype or no hype. Jason says, oh, the Resident Evil 2 game isn't any good. I quite like it, mate, if I'm honest. I know somebody else said that it wasn't for them. I actually quite liked it. I think there was some issues, but there were visual issues for me, like the darkness of the tiles and the scale of the miniatures. The game itself I actually found played okay. Got Jeremy Griffin in. Nice to see you, Jeremy. He's seen his sisters as an example. They were awesome looking to me, but I never even considered it. Built a Necron army a bit back, and then I'm legit excited for this. Nice one. And Paul says, I get hyped for the weekends, but apparently I'm decorating. I know that feeling, mate. It's funny because obviously, like, whilst me and my wife we're obviously both working at home, me with my new job now, and my wife staying at home working. We've been taking turns to I've been trying to do a little bit of stuff while my wife's been kind of like doing, like, sort of trying to do a bit of work, looking after the little one. We've been swapping over and stuff. So today's the first day he's been back to nursery. So my wife's been on course. She's been running a training course and stuff. I've been kind of sitting writing my scripts and stuff for future videos. And we were sitting having lunch together, and she said, you know, like now we're starting to get some time back during the day to do proper stuff and things, and like you work a few evenings a week as well. You know, you should probably like take a day off, like actually like take some time off and do something. And I was like, well, like what am I going to do? Like, you're working all day. Like, if I do my hobby, it's like doing my job anyway. So what am I going to do? And she went, you can do some jobs around the house. So yes, I feel your pain on the decorating, mate. Scott saying, hit the like button. Andy deserves every single one. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. Alex is here. Nice to see you, Alex. How you doing, mate? He says, classic subject matter. Hype of the new is definitely a thing, and I'm a lot more cynical about it after last year's Kickstarter boycott. Yeah, Alex, one of my Patreons as well. Thank you very much, Alex. Was basically had a bit of a kind of a hiatus from buying it the Kickstarters, and as somebody that's kind of really heavily into board games as Alex is, that was quite the struggle, because I know you used to back quite a lot, mate, didn't you? Palmsy's saying GW do that clock countdown thing on their emails for their made-to-order figures, which is pretty hype-inducing. To be fair, mate, they're starting to kind of almost start a bit of... I mean, they're talking about the countdown to the new edition now, except they haven't given a date when it is, so it's not technically a countdown. So yeah, it's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? I'll skip ahead a little bit here as well, just to try and catch up. Arnold just saying, good evening, just arrived back home. Sorry, I missed the opening. We had a wonderful day up in Friesland, North Netherlands. Nice one, mate. I'm glad you've had a good day. Chuck and Deb saying, Simon, Massive Darkness, rumour of Kickstarter release. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. Tony says he used to be a hype junkie, but he's recently gotten a handle on it. Normally, I'd have been all over Frosthaven and Nemesis, but managed to act away and be back at retail if I wanted. I think if anybody hasn't seen the video I made about how I never bought any hobby stuff for 6 months, that gave me a real kind of insight into how the hype machine, the hype train, how it affects me personally, and where I get kind of like sucked into it and stuff. I definitely got sucked into the hype machine for 8th edition. I have done over a number of other things as well. I just think mentally I'm in a different place now, and I can kind of, I think I know when I'm getting caught in the hype and I kind of rein myself back, and I know when I'm really excited for something and I can't wait to get it. I know the difference now, so I've not really backed any Kickstarters because of that kind of realization. I've just recently backed a Kickstarter, which was for the Redgrass Games paint and handle, but that's not exactly kind of hype. I just think it's a really good product. So yeah, I think we'll come on to that in a second anyway. I'll very quickly just catch up with a few people that are in the chat as well. Kieran Burns in, nice to see you. Camo's in as well. Andrew Fairbanks says he's in live but lurking, nice to see you. Edward Pickens in as well, nice to see you. Rerolling Ones Jack says, what if you want to get caught up in the hype? Hype is fun. Yeah, I think I kind of missed that. You might have missed that, sorry, a little bit earlier on. Getting caught up in the hype is fun, you're exactly right. I just think there's a fine line between being hyped for something you are very excited about and getting caught up in the hype for something that actually you probably don't want, but you get swept up in it, you get dragged along with the rest of the community. You see all these things about buy it now before it's gone, and everybody's telling you, even if you don't really want it, if you don't get it, you won't be able to have it. That kind of stuff actually is quite sort of, it's quite dangerous really, because that's how people end up spending more than they can afford. So yeah, I agree, getting caught up in the hype is fun when it's something you really want. Let's see, have a look. Aggression there saying loves listening to Doug. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. Mr. Trainer Guy's in as well. He says, we just had a pledge there as well. And Patreon, thank you very much, Frantic. Much appreciated. Hype is nice and distracting. It is. It's distracting at a time like this as well, which is just what we all need, I think. Dan Hughes is in as well. Nice to see you, Dan. How are you doing, mate? Been listening, catching up on your podcasts as well, mate. Peter saying he heard the hype is so overused it will soon all be gone. Luke says the Final Girl Kickstarter exclusive mystery box. I don't really know much about that, mate, to be fair. Tony saying that coffee shop gizmo sounds like it could go horribly wrong at the end of a hot coffee catapult. It's quite gentle, to be fair. Good evening to Flying Mammal. How are you doing, Ruth? Hello to Daniel Kennedy as well. Marco says, can we expect a painting tutorial for the Dead Zone terrain? You can, mate. It's actually here, halfway through. So basically what I'm doing is it's a video which I'm basically showing you how I came up with the layout, how I've built it up, how I've painted it, and how I've kind of built the kind of board. And the idea is it'll be one video but it's not going to be a painting tutorial exactly. It's more kind of like a thought process, start to finish, of how I've ended up with it. So yeah, it's one of those things that it's taken me a little bit of time to do it, and I'm kind of filming it as I go, and when I get to the end, you'll see the whole video, mate. Yes. We've got Greg in as well, says, howdy from the west coast of USA. Been a while since I've been able to catch this live. Thank you very much, Greg. Thanks for coming in. Mark says, I'm about but in a crunch at work, so video chats with the team is killing me, I can imagine, mate. Robert's back to the Elia Chronicles as well. Let me skip forward here. I've missed anybody. Daniel Engel's in as well. VJ's in. Nice to see you, VJ. Right, I apologise if I've missed any names. We've got Richard Smith. We've got Mike G. A few bit of chat in there. Anyway, I'm going to dive in now. I'm going to start talking about the topic because I've been going far too long and I should have started anyway. So, hype. Don't believe the hype was the thumbnail stuff. It's obviously a bit of a catchy phrase and stuff, but essentially what I'm talking about, and this is not limited to GW, it's not limited to 40k, so please don't think this is kind of like an anti-GW thing. This is about getting caught up in the hype, for whether that be for a new computer game. I've got caught up in the hype. I'll explain that one in a second. You get caught up in the hype for video games. You get caught up in the hype for new miniatures. You get caught up in the hype for Kickstarters, all that kind of thing. And sometimes it's caused essentially by a really good marketing campaign. If there is no hype generated around something, it tends to be because of two things. One, the product is just not very good, and the company is really kind of like they've built it up into something that it actually isn't, and the community and the potential audience see right through that. And they basically just say, well, can you imagine, for example, the Redgrass Games handle? Fantastic product, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to when mine will ship later. But it's not the kind of thing that you hype up. Like, it's a paint and handle at the end of the day. Let's not get carried away. It's a tool for putting your model on while you paint. It's not the kind of thing you hype up. So what would happen if the company really tried to kind of like overblown video sort of like marketing campaign, advertising it everywhere, absolutely throwing it down your neck? People just get turned off by it. So that's when hype kind of goes wrong, if you like. The other side of it is basically when the hype gets turned up kind of to absolute kind of breaking point, because the marketing campaign starts too early, if you like. And I think a good example of this one is probably Star Wars Legion. When Fantasy Flight did this one, they really kind of turned up the hype to 11, if you like, and it was like a juggernaut coming down the road, and then they reached a point probably about 3 or 4 months before release where it was just like, we've kind of run out of steam now. We've basically shown you everything. We've got nothing new to tell you about it. All we want to do now is we just want you to sit back and that money you've been putting to one side for Star Wars Legion, just put it to one side and wait for it. It'll be coming. Don't worry about it. But I've got nothing new to tell you, kind of thing. And I think the problem is that basically if a company gets it wrong, they can kind of overshoot that point of like kind of fever pitch, if you like. Now, Games Workshop are the absolute masters of this. Nobody else in tabletop gaming can do that hype machine like Games Workshop do it. They've got a massive kind of roster of people who work for them, their marketing department. They know exactly how to push them buttons, how to get their audience, their community, even the people that don't want the stuff, even the people that are like sort of really anti-GW, add to the hype, because they talk about it anyway, saying about how much they don't like it, which then basically inflames the community that do like it to argue back about it, and that in itself creates the hype. So they are fantastic at doing it, and they always kind of pitch it just right, so that actually it feels at the start like you're trying to kind of pull more information out of them. You're not getting that information. Then all of a sudden we see some kind of leaked images and things, which kind of just get them gears turning a little bit more again. David Delaney saying, "Hope you didn't miss anything." I'm literally starting now, mate. Don't worry. And they build that up. Then eventually what they'll do is they'll tell you the date of release, and then they'll really start to wrap up to it, getting ready for about 2 weeks prior. You'll start to see videos releasing from some of the bigger channels who get their kind of review copies a little bit earlier. There'll be that Saturday morning when pre-releases go on order, and all of the channels dump all of their pre-release material, and it kind of gets everybody hyped. Everybody's on the internet ordering their stuff, and then there's that couple of weeks where people have already kind of bought into it. And then they start drip feeding more stuff, really getting you right up, because by this point everybody knows what's in the box and all that kind of stuff. We start seeing the battle reports, we start seeing the how to play videos, all that kind of stuff. So they are the masters of getting it right. However, they're also the masters of getting people hooked on something that they probably don't want in as well. So for every 100 people that absolutely want it and they can't wait for it and they're really excited for it, there's probably another 5 to 10 people who actually just get caught up in the hype. And this happens a lot with Kickstarters as well. So because you've got this fine kind of window of opportunity, these 28 days, these 2 weeks for a Kickstarter, there's basically, as people have mentioned there, it's a fear of missing out, really. You can call it hype, you can call it a fear of missing out. They can sometimes be the same thing. They're interchangeable a little bit. And what happens is there are a lot of people, me included, who can become susceptible to kind of that amount of suggestion, and it's hammered at you so much that you start to think, well, it must be good. I need to have it. Everybody's talking about it. I don't want to be the only person that doesn't have it. And as an example, I've been caught up with things like, so Red Dead Redemption 2 was a perfect example of a game that I got caught up in the hype. Now, I knew it wasn't really the game for me when I kind of saw the trailers. I knew it wasn't the game for me when I read about it. For me personally, I tend to just like to play like a kind of a game where I can dive in for 30 minutes, something like a Call of Duty or a FIFA, or something where I've got half an hour. I just want to dive in, blast away on something, and then come away from it. Old school arcade kind of games, if you like. I knew it wasn't the game for me, but the more I watched it, the more I read about it, the more I saw online, the more I heard everybody talking about it, the way it was kind of getting built up for it, I pre-ordered it and I bought it on launch day. And I started playing that game, and then very, very quickly I realized, why did you buy it? This is not. It's really, really slow paced. It's not the kind of game I can just dive in and kind of have a quick half an hour on it. Basically, in that 30 minutes I've been playing, I've basically walked my horse like over the top of a couple of mountains kind of stuff. I've not really done anything. It's not my kind of game, and I knew that going into it, but I still got caught up with the hype. What I did was I ended up trading it in and kind of basically making most of my money back, and I ended up buying something else instead. But miniatures games can do the same thing. I got caught up in 8th edition exactly the same way. I bought the Dark Imperium set, I bought all of the indexes, and in reality, I didn't have anybody to play against, who, like, really at that particular time. I wasn't kind of at any particular gaming club or anything like that. I didn't have anybody to play against. I'm a slow painter, or I certainly was then. I was already kind of playing other games, and by the time I actually even built the miniatures, the indexes were out of date, the codexes had come out, and that's on me, really. That I can't blame anybody like GW or my local gaming store trying to hype it to me or any of that kind of stuff. That's on me. I knew that going in that this was going to happen, and I still kind of did it, if you like. The Kickstarters are exactly the same. Like, you will see all of these things with if you and you might be interested in the game, but it's like, but if I get it, then I need to make sure I get all those exclusive stuff as well. And I can only get them exclusive stuff if I back it at this pledge level. And I can only get this particular thing if I back the Kickstarter, because the Kickstarter kind of is Batman Gotham City Chronicles, prime example. The game's never come into the game's never come into retail. It's Kickstarter only. One of the things that kind of annoyed me was the fact that when my Batman game shipped, I opened the box and the first thing that was on the lid was basically the date for the new Kickstarter for another reprint of it, and it was like that's the kind of thing where like you do go into these things with your eyes open. Joan of Arc was exactly the same by Mythic as well. Basically, it was a huge Kickstarter. It made millions of pounds, and basically I don't even think it had shipped at the point when they announced the 1.5 to fix some of the issues that were inherent in the first edition, like to fix them. And if you wanted the 1.5 rulebook, a hard copy of it with all of the stuff that had been fixed, you had to back something in the original one as well. Hello, Red Rose Wargaming, new member. Thank you very much. You must be renewing your monthly membership, I think. Thank you so much. And that's what happens with hype. You get pulled into these things that you basically just that you can't, like, you don't necessarily want. And that's when I want to try and sort of separate these things. There's hype, which is basically like, there's hype which is positive. There is getting people excited for something new that they really, really want. 9th edition for 40k is that thing. I've been waiting for an edition of 40k at smaller points levels that I think will be more kind of more widely played, rather than people just saying, well, you can play 500 if you want. This is actually built into the game. The Crusade part of it is built into the game, and I am genuinely excited for it, and I'm looking forward to seeing more about it, if you like. I'm looking forward to that. So that isn't necessarily hype for me. I'm just excited for something new that's coming. However, in the past, I'd have just got swept up in, this is a really big game. Necromunda Dark Uprising, I nearly did the same thing with that as well. I nearly got swept up in that hype. That basically it was this really expensive box set, and I knew it wasn't going to be around for very long. And if I didn't buy these tiles, and if I didn't buy this, and I almost bought into it. I got some money back that I wasn't expecting, and I almost spent it on Necromunda Dark Uprising. And I knew that I wouldn't play it, but I was getting caught up in that hype, you know, the brilliant videos and all that other kind of stuff. And again, this is not a GW specific thing. I just think they do a really good job of marketing their stuff. It's the same with Apple phones, you know, there's a new Apple phone coming, it's the latest thing. It's hype, you get caught up in it. You get that, they play on that kind of thing that says you need to have the latest thing if you want to be one of the cool kids kind of thing. So I hope that kind of explains the stuff that I'm talking about tonight. Let's have a little dip into the chat. I'll scroll back a little bit and we'll dip into the chat and see some of the things that people are saying. Where are we at? Richard's saying, actually more hype for a new shop opening in my area and an escalation league for post-lockdown. 40k AOS and Kings of War. Spent all last week dusting off his old high elves on the Mantic list builder. Nice one, mate. VG said, everyone should listen to the wisdom of Chuck D and Flavor Flav. Don't believe the hype. Yeah, that's what it must be. Jason says he's a sucker for Kickstarters with good art and or miniatures. I think, to be fair, the thing with Kickstarters is they are very visual. They are all about the aesthetic, because the chances are you're not going to get the chance to play that game prior to dropping sometimes several hundreds of pounds and then have to wait 18 months to 2 years for things to ship. So it's really important to get the art right, and it's really important to have some high quality renders of stuff as well. So yeah, I understand why you get pulled into that stuff. VJ says he's susceptible to hype trains but also fall off them easily, so I find it works out well. Getting off them before the end is the trick though, mate, isn't it? Korax is saying, good evening by the way, Korax, says fear of missing out is a big wallet killer. Yes, and I've heard some horror stories of people really overstretching themselves and getting themselves into a lot of problems buying stuff that actually they don't really want. They just get caught up in the hype. They want to be part of the part of the community. They want to be part of the chat. They want to be part of that kind of online movement that's really behind that particular game. And that's kind of that's some of the things that happens. There was a story a while ago on Reddit, which is, I think there was a guy had spent something like £20,000 on Kickstarters, and it wasn't so much about the money. The guy was relatively kind of well off. He had a good job, and he wasn't missing the money, if you like. But I think it was the fact that it just got out of control, and the fact that he was buying stuff just because he liked the look of it. He liked backing it. He liked being in the comments on the Kickstarter chat and all of that kind of stuff. And this stuff was arriving pretty much on a weekly basis, and it was just getting put on a shelf, or it wasn't even getting unboxed. So I think some people are very susceptible to getting caught up in that, and it could become a real kind of financial problem. Mighty Joe, nice to see you, Mighty Joe, says 40k's gone to shit. All the new miniatures and rules now look like they've been designed by a 12-year-old with Asperger's who has been fed with a pound of sugar. I can't agree with that, mate. I think Games Workshop are still some of the best miniature designers and quality products out there from a miniatures perspective. Games rules is kind of up to everybody else. Aesthetics of the miniatures is up to everybody. It's personal taste as well. But I can't say that they're kind of like that they're garbage. Basically, I think they've got some really skilled artists, some really skilled sort of lore writers, and it's then basically it's up to the consumer, isn't it? Krabby saying he's not just paint and handle, it's a red grass paint and handle. Imagine telling all your mates you used corks. Glenn says a few weeks back he was going to buy a load of Katashan models because of the hype of that store exclusive. It took just over a week, but I managed to get past it. That Katashan model is a great example of hype. Now, some people have spent hundreds of pounds to get that model. I personally can't see the value in that, but some people obviously can. And that for me can only be hype. That idea of there's a model that you haven't got, you didn't know existed, you might not even play that army. However, here's something that you can't have. And all of a sudden there's the hype. And then it's a case of, well, what do you mean I can't have it? I'll pay whatever it takes and I'll have that model. And some people do. And some people can afford that and some people can't afford that. That's where I see kind of hype, where it kind of tips over into the just like almost dangerous territory at times. Krabby saying every story has a villain. That's what makes the heroes so good. Hype needs the doubters. The doubters feed the hype, mate. If it's just people saying positive things about something, they can sometimes burn themselves out. And that actually, it's the fact that people sometimes try and bring some balance to that is actually what can kind of really kind of lift that hype. Aggression says, I don't think anyone has a right to criticise marketing. We all face choice as consumers as to what we buy. I don't think it's a case of criticising marketing, but I've worked within marketing as well, and I understand kind of some of the tricks, if you like. And there are a lot of things, a lot of kind of like modern day marketing that we see now from the big corporations. A lot of it is. Thank you for subscribing, Scarthy. A lot of it is based upon kind of like mind control techniques. There's actually a little bit of a kind of like a horrible dark undertone when it comes to kind of really kind of heavily marketing. And that, like for example, there's a reason why all fast food restaurants tend to have red and yellow colours. Like McDonald's is red and yellow, Burger King's red and yellow. Like even like KFC's got the red. There's a reason why these kind of fast food companies use red and use yellow. There's a reason why these fast food companies like basically market things in a certain way. There's a reason why Apple market things in a certain way. There's a reason GW markets things in a certain way. And sometimes these companies have millions to spend on marketing. Now they would not spend millions on this marketing campaigns if there wasn't a payback in that. If it wasn't about trying to get you to forget everybody else that's an option out there and just to focus on this one product. Now within gaming, I think one of the reasons that GW take a little bit of flack for this, and I think unfairly to be fair, is because they're the only ones that really have that kind of money to spend. People like Mantic, people like Weird Miniatures, people like Warlord, they don't have marketing budgets the way that GW do. So it looks really unbalanced. It's a bit different when you get into kind of mainstream kind of consumer goods and things. But you're exactly right. Everybody has the kind of the choice to buy or not to buy. However, really good marketing will be convincing the people who probably didn't want it in the first place to buy it, and that's when it's very different. VJ says the biggest hype train he got on recently was Super Fantasy Brawl. Glad I fell off in the end. I couldn't see myself getting my money's worth out of it. I backed that, mate, with my own money. I'm really excited for it to come. It's obviously a little bit delayed at the minute with everything that's gone on, but I personally see the value in it. The difference was I got the chance to play that game quite a lot in the early days with Mythic Games being on my doorstep, basically. So I got to sit and talk to the designers. I got to sit and play the game with the player testers. So the difference was I knew where my money was going. I think the difference with 99% of Kickstarters is you will never get the chance to do that. Tony says he's just, however, ordered 7th Continent and he's really giddy waiting for it to arrive. I only ordered it an hour ago. 7th Continent's not on Kickstarter though, is it? Is 7th Continent not like an older game I seem to remember? John Estel says the 40k hype done so well The CGI videos with a bit of cabin fever, I thought it might fancy it, but after a deep breath, I play a game I really enjoy with great people. I don't have time to play anymore. So John's comment in the Facebook group was kind of along those lines, and that was the thing that got me thinking, and that basically John had kind of started to get caught up in it, but essentially kind of took a bit of time to reflect on it and thought, do you know what it is? I play games at the moment. Kings of War, I think, was the one you mentioned. I play Kings of War. That's the game I enjoy. I enjoy playing that now. I have a group of people that I play with who also enjoy playing Kings of War. Why would I get caught up in the hype for a game that actually I probably won't get to play? Why do I want to stop playing the game that I enjoy playing with the people I enjoy playing against to get caught up in this new shiny thing? And that was the thing that kind of prompted some of this conversation, that actually hype can be a good thing. Getting excited about new stuff is fantastic. We all love that as hobbyists and as gamers. We love getting excited about new stuff. But sometimes you do have to reflect upon it and think, actually, do I need another game? Is this new game, 40k in this instance, but can be any game, is this new game going to give me something that I'm not currently getting in my hobby? And is it going to give me some fantastic miniatures to paint that I really like, but I've never had a reason to paint them in the past? Is it going to give me a better gaming experience than the games that I'm playing? Is there a bigger gaming group available? Have I basically got one person to play my game against, and I'm getting a bit tired of playing the same game, where if I come and play this new game, it opens me up to a whole new community of people I can play against? And I think you sometimes have to weigh those kind of things up when it comes to these gaming. It's different to video games, which are quite a solitary thing. Even if you play it online, the scale of it is huge. So even if you buy a bit of a lesser known game, you either play it solo at home or you'll play it online with people from all over the world. Physical face-to-face gaming is very different. So before you get caught up in the hype, one thing to just kind of rationalize in your own mind is, what does this game give me that I'm not getting already? Because I've mentioned this many, many times. The best games are the ones that you can play and the ones that you enjoy playing. It doesn't matter if they've got the best miniatures. It doesn't matter if they've got the best rule set. They're the ones that you can have fun with, and you play it against people who are also having fun. And that in itself gives you the enjoyment. Now, it might be that this new game will give you all of those things. But that's the balance of kind of weighing up the hype, of weighing up that, like, am I just excited about this because everybody tells me I should be excited about it? Or am I excited about this because it's really what I want? And that's what I'm kind of talking about tonight, really. So yeah, I'd love to know what you think about that kind of stuff. We got Juan as well. Nice to see you, Juan. He's saying, what makes you think people don't have the right to criticize? I think it's a different thing. I think everybody has the right to criticize something, but I don't think you should criticize you shouldn't blame a marketing campaign for you buying something you didn't want. Do you know what? And I think that's maybe what we're talking about here. Fat Cat says, I got caught out by No Man's Sky. Not a bad game now, but awful for years. I think that's another prime example of basically the hype getting to a point where actually it could never live up to what it was billed as. I think games like, what's the other one I'm thinking of? The pirate game, the Sea of Thieves, I think was another game where actually now it's actually pretty fantastic, but it was built up to something that it could never actually achieve when it first launched. Chris Dawes in as well. Nice to see you. He says, GW are a selling experience. That's the difference with your paint and handle example. Or selling an experience. Sorry. Yeah, I agree. I think the point I was making about the paint and handle is there are some things that you won't hype up because there's no point in hyping them up. If you hype that up, it's counterintuitive, really. It'll backfire and people will go like, bloody hell, what you trying to sell me, a paint and handle with all this kind of marketing behind it for? I think that's what I was trying to get at. Let's have a little chat. Palmsy's saying, good point about video games. I think the hype is more intense because you see 10 out of 10 Eurogamer, 10 out of 10 Edge, 98% IGN everywhere. You don't get that as bad with tabletop games. And I think that's to do with the size of the player base and to be fair, the size of the media. But if we suddenly had loads of YouTube channels that are up there in the kind of million subscribers, and they are basically hammering you with potentially paid for reviews for this new stuff that's coming up, telling you how fantastic this thing is, that's the kind of false hype that gets you caught up in it. Everybody's saying good things. It can't be that bad, kind of thing. There's an element to that with the video game industry. Busey saying hype for me isn't necessarily marketing based. I seem to build my own hype, tell myself I genuinely want or need something over a period of weeks and then buy it and the hype is over. I'm susceptible to that as well, mate. There are things where I keep thinking, yeah, I really want that, I really need that, and you kind of justify it in your own mind. Well, if I get that, I could do this with it, and I can do that with it. And then actually, when you do finally buy it, you realise actually you don't do 2/10 of the stuff that you thought you needed it for. It's like buying a new PC or something, or buying a bigger TV, or all these kind of things. The things you do to justify that purchase in your mind. Our games are no different to that kind of thing. Let me scroll back a little bit. VG says Citadel minis definitely have a style, but as Andy said, it's 100% taste. I personally don't like the regular D&D minis. I find them dull and not chunky enough. Yeah, I've kind of painted a lot of different things recently now, obviously with getting more exposure to more different games and having more time. And I've painted everything from tiny little metal scale things right up to quite oversized big plastic scale things and everything in between. And what I found is I don't have one particular style that suits me. There is something across that entire range that I like. There are some models that I really don't enjoy building and painting. There are some models that I basically just think are a little bit lost when they get to the tabletop. But there's something for everyone. These things wouldn't sell if basically everybody just liked one kind of thing. Palmsy saying Days Gone was another one. That was a kind of a game that actually I still to this day quite fancy. But I didn't get caught up in the hype, and I thought it's a single player experience. I'll buy it when it's kind of like 15 quid on the sale kind of thing. Sean Blakeson says, hey my dude, nice to see you, Sean. How are you doing? Daniel Buxton says hello as well. Nice to see you. Vijay in Google Edward Bernays. I will do, mate. I will have to do it. Vijay says invented modern marketing. I think that's the guy I'm trying to think of, mate. Yeah. Just Kev says, good evening all. You've got to admit GW are the king of hype and you have to dip the cap to them. I'm up for 40k hype as long as they deliver and those marine bikes are sexy. Yeah, I'm not denying it. I think there's a fine line between hype and overhype and actually just giving you what you want, if you like. And I think you're right when you're saying as long as they deliver on it, then it's not hype technically, it's just really good marketing. Bobby Clark says, I think getting caught up in the hype is sometimes more than an issue of people not admitting they have a problem when it comes to buying things. I completely agree, mate. You can't really blame the companies. Nobody comes round and says, by the way, that money that's in your wallet right now, you need to buy that thing that I'm selling now. Like that's not how this stuff works. It's all a choice. We all make them choices. And I think people that are more heavily influenced by this kind of stuff, have to look at themselves. And really, that's exactly what I'm talking about tonight. When I'm saying don't believe the hype, don't get caught up in the hype, this is what I'm trying to say. It's relevant to all games. It's relevant to all areas of life, to be fair. And it's more about just really kind of just take that step back. Just really think about it. What will this new product, what will this new game give you that you haven't already got? And if you still think that this game is exactly what you want, then go for it. Spend your money on it. Dive in, buy all the things you want. But I think sometimes people don't really weigh up. Some people do get caught up in that. I've got this train's going. It's going to leave without me if I don't get up on board. So yeah, I'm gonna go with it, and that's really what this is about. Arnold saying Mad Max would not touch those bikers with a 10-foot pole. How could those guys ever come close to the target? The models are so unreal. Let's be fair now, Arnold. We're talking about a game set in the 40,000th millennium of sort of genetically enhanced space marines fighting aliens on planets, where sort of they have sort of bolt guns that never seem to need reloading. Like reality went out the window a long time ago. If you can't suspend belief about how those bikes work, I think like then the rest of the games are relevant as well, really. So yeah. Mighty Joe says 40k. It's gone bad. All the new miniatures rules now that they've been designed. Yeah, well, I think we've already said that one. I think we're just repeating the same thing. unless I've read it twice. James saying I come close to getting the Sisters of Battle box when it came out because of all the hype. Loads of people did, mate, to be fair. Loads of people did. Roxanne said being both cheap and jaded is good protection against the hype. Can't recall the last time anything excited me on release, though I'm not saying that's a better mental attitude. I don't think it's really necessarily about a mental attitude at all. I think it's just some things will really kind of push your buttons and will really excite you, mate. And maybe the things that you've seen so far have not been it. Jacob says this has been a really informative live stream. Love it. Thank you, Jacob. I mean, I'm no expert at this kind of stuff. I would say that I'm in a position that I used to be a person that would get caught up in the hype. I had basically a bit of a timeout of buying new stuff, and I reflected upon a lot of things. And actually, I want people to be excited. I want the people that come into these chats to be absolutely over the moon and really excited for the new releases. But I want them to be excited for the releases that they really want, not just get caught up in the hype of stuff to feel part of the gang, to feel part of the community. Because the last thing I want anybody to do is to go, oh, Andy hyped this thing up, said how great it was, and I bought it and it's a load of crap. Like, I don't believe a word he says kind of thing. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to temper people's expectations by saying, get caught up in the hype, ride the hype train, but ride the hype train to a destination you want to go to. Don't just get on board because you think it's the last train home kind of thing. I'm mixing my metaphors now, but yeah, that was getting deep. VJ says, I've become very critical of game mechanics recently. It's just so frustrating when a good game gets spoiled for me with one or two mechanics that don't work in an otherwise good game. Have you got any examples, VJ, that you're thinking of? Andrew Fairbanks says, the Internet Historian's No Man's Sky video is amazing. I've seen that. It is fantastic, actually. VJ said actually loves the dice addition and subtraction instead of modifiers and exploding it. Yes, I like that as well. It's one thing I really do like about Mantic game stuff is the fact that they tend not to modify abilities, if you like, or attributes. They tend to add a dice or take away a dice, and I must admit I do quite like that as well. I'm surprised it's not something that we don't see more often elsewhere. Exploding 8 is a great mechanic as well. It's not limited to Mantic stuff. I think the first game I ever saw it in was Dystopian Wars, which was Exploding 6s, I think, back then. But yeah, it's a great addition. It brings in that little kind of random element of luck, if you like. Matthew says he squirrels too much. Or he would have done if it hadn't just jumped off the top of my screen. Let me see if I can find that. I squirrel too much. I don't hype as much anymore. I didn't get into Legion until a year later, and now I have way too much. It replaced his 40k addiction, and he no longer plays 40k, but now he's into Legion. I think, interestingly, I did get caught up in the hype for Star Wars, and to be fair, I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I still love Star Wars Legion now. But what kind of drained it for me a little bit was the fever pitch for the hype, too long of a wait until release, and then when release come, a really slow release schedule, and a release of things that were actually almost carbon copies. So there was stormtroopers, there was snow troopers. It was just more white units, basically. And unfortunately, that's Star Wars, really. But the fact that there's two factions, there wasn't a lot of variety, it kind of stemmed the excitement for the game a little bit. Fast forward a couple of years now, and yeah, we've got a lot more stuff available. And actually, the game's probably not in a bad place, except for maybe some supply issues again. But yeah. Sometimes it's worth waiting. Marvel Crisis Protocol is another game I almost kind of got suckered into as well on release and wanting to buy it and stuff. And I've kind of waited. I've waited it out, and now I'm looking at it with almost like without those rose-tinted glasses, looking at it as to think, actually, is it a game I'll play now? And I'm kind of trying to wait if it's something I want to spend my money on. VG saying we can't stand the movement and space cubes. I actually quite like that, mate. I think it's just really different. It gets away from using a tape measure. And actually, in reality, when you're playing it plays really well. Yes, it's a little bit abstract and you have to kind of like weigh that up, but I just think it's something different. It's something you don't see very often. Like actual, like real sort of innovation in game mechanics is not something you see very much. Jimmy Newton, good evening, says, evening folks, thinking of buying the Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, but I'm trying to stay calm and not do carried away with the new shiny. Have you watched some of the videos that's online? There's a few people who've obviously got like sort of demo copies or kind of like review copies. it's not a game that excites me, but then I'm not a massive Elder Scrolls fan. I've played the Skyrim game, but it's not that kind of half-hour kind of half-hour blast, if you like, that I like to play. I think if you're a fan of the Elder Scrolls world, I think you get more out of the game than if it's just a miniatures gamer kind of thing. Peter seen a game close to buying the Sisters of Battle box. Only the funny content stopped me. Another squad of sisters may have tipped the balance. Yeah, I think it was the first in a line of stuff where they started to include like the sort of hardback the codexes and stuff as well, which just tweaked a little bit more money out of that, didn't it? Brennick saying, bought into Star Wars Legion, never played it. Bought into Infinity, never played it. Bought into X-Wing, it's been on the table once in the last 3 years. Bought into 40k, played it loads. So then, Brennick, why did you buy 3 games that you've done nothing with? Because that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about buying into games. We're not saying like 40k is the best, 40k is the worst, or any of that kind of stuff. Why do you buy into games that you then don't play? That's the crux of what we're talking about tonight. We're not talking about one specific game. We're talking about that feeling of, why do we buy stuff that we then just don't play? Board gamers do it all the time. Board gamers buy loads of new games because it's getting great reviews, or I might get to play this at some point, and all that kind of thing. And then they sit on a shelf behind them and they never get played. Board gamers are even more susceptible to this kind of thing, I would say. George is saying, yeah, love those cubes. Pomsy saying, I think Sting said cocaine is God's way of telling you you've got too much money. Same could be said about hype. Yeah, and I would say they can be equal addictions, and they can also cause a lot of pain when you overextend how much you can afford on that kind of stuff. I think cocaine would be a lot worse, though, to be fair. Matthew says, Bennett, that's right. Buy what you play. I don't know why I can't just do that. But to be fair, Matthew, what Brennick's saying is he didn't just buy what he plays. He bought lots of things before he kind of played the one thing. Jacob says, I always look for high replayability. I tend to stay away from games that are dependent upon the narrative. Dependent upon... I think that's obviously, that's your choice. That's your kind of game that you enjoy, because a lot of people buy a game because of the narrative. It's the narrative that gets them involved. It's the narrative that keeps them coming back, to be fair. But yeah, there's something different for everyone. That's the whole thing. Andrew Fairbanks says, disagree with everyone here. GW isn't good at hype. They're just the big boys. I think they are good at hype. That if they weren't, they wouldn't be as far ahead of the pack as they are when it comes to sales, because they would then be on an even footing with everybody else. I mean, if you don't think they're good at hype, just look at the Twitch stream for the announcement of 8th edition. Most people knew it was going to be 8th edition that was getting announced. Most people had seen the leaks on the morning, which confirmed it was going to be 8th edition getting announced. And yet there were still nearly 80,000 people online watching a 2-hour stream where essentially they announced what we already knew. So, and to be fair, you didn't even have to watch it. You could have saw those pictures and that information on the Warhammer community site literally 5 minutes after they said it. And yet there was 80,000 people in the chat talking about it, or 80,000 people on the stream watching it. So I would politely disagree. I think they are the masters of it, really, when it comes to it, within their industry. Glenn says the Marine bikes can remind me of those sit-down lawnmowers. But the bikes haven't changed. I mean, I know that the bikes are getting a bit of flack now, but they've always looked like that. It's not like it's kind of a complete departure from where bikes have been. Fiji says Wind in the Willows was never my jam. David Mackay saying, I'm trying to self-hype myself to buy a 3D printer. I've been doing it for years now and still not taking the plunge. What's holding you back, mate? Why haven't you bought it then? If you really want one, why haven't you? It could well be the cost. I mean, that's obviously a consideration, but is there something about it that's making you not buy it? Krabby Vision says, is there a different side to this? Get caught up in the hype, enjoy it, deal with the buyer's remorse. Just do it within your means. I think that's quite a dangerous way to look at it, mate, to be fair, because then what you're doing is you are basically enjoying the ride of the hype machine, if you like, buying something that you know you're not going to play, and then basically just sucking it up and saying, "Oh well, it's £100 down the pan" kind of thing. It's fine. I think that's quite dangerous because you can still ride the hype train. You can still chat online. This group is great for that kind of stuff. Still being able to chat about stuff without having to physically put your money where your mouth is, if you like, without having to buy in. It's quite easy to kind of almost live vicariously through other people buying it, like through our group and through the Patreon chat and things like that, and through Facebook groups. It's easy to kind of to share in that without actually physically having to spend the money, especially if you know you're not going to buy it. I think anything that gives you buyer's remorse, you should have really kind of given some thought to it beforehand. Now, if you've got buyer's remorse because it hasn't lived up to your expectations, but it was something that you really wanted, that's maybe a little bit different. But actively getting into it, knowing ahead of time that you're probably not going to play it, and still doing it anyway, and then doing that again and again, I think that's potentially quite dangerous. Camo says, Mythic games are getting good at the hype process. I actually think it's the veneer's coming off that with Mythic. I don't think they're as good as they were, if I'm perfectly honest. I mean, their Kickstarters are certainly not raising as much money as their early ones did. And I think people are now getting wise to the fact that I won't back this version because not too long after it, there'll be a 1.5 version that fixes all the problems. And that's what's kind of knocked the veneer off it for me a little bit, I think. Paul Jones says, I should get the wife to watch this. I can't let her within 10 miles of a Dunelm or an IKEA without being attracted to it like a magpie or something shiny. Yes, you're not alone in that, mate, to be fair. Palmsy's saying, to be fair, we're mere peasants when companies spend millions on marketing things to us in clever ways. How can we resist? Yeah, it's there's an art to it. There's an art to it. People don't spend millions on marketing just to try and convince the people that already want that product to buy it. They're trying to convince the people that don't want that product to buy it. That's what it's about. Boozy's saying, I don't agree with Sting. People will spend their last bit of money on cocaine. Same with hype. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's about addiction, isn't it? Actually, yeah. George is saying plastic addiction's a thing. Six in the Head says, yes, they will, but maybe they shouldn't. Tim Kelly says, cheap and jaded. They used to be my favourite kind of date. VJ says he's cut right back on the plastic resin crap. When I had my 6 months off from doing stuff, so for those that don't know, basically, I basically spent 6 months putting all of my spare cash into kind of like into saving to get ready to do this YouTube channel full time. And I didn't spend anything on my hobby. And what I did was I started using the things that I'd already bought and didn't do anything with. And that's the kind of thing that got me in a different mindset. So yeah, I'm not really, I wouldn't say I get caught up in the hype these days, but it's because I think I've kind of conditioned myself to really look at things with an open mindset and see, actually, is this something I really want? But what I'm finding is that the things I do really want, I am really enjoying, and I think that's it's only kind of enriched my gaming experience and my hobby experience. I'm loving painting the stuff I'm buying. I'm not just buying stuff, looking at it and putting it on a shelf and doing nothing with it. Everything I'm buying, I'm painting. Everything I'm painting, I'm playing. And that's a very different kind of situation to where I've been for a long, long time. Peter Higgins says, Kickstarter's been a wake-up call to me with getting caught up in the hype. 100%, mate, yeah. I've bought stuff on Kickstarter, really, that I probably haven't played, and I probably shouldn't have bought into it, to be fair. I think the one thing that I get caught, or I used to get caught with Kickstarter, is buying expansions. That feeling of, oh, well, it's a little bit cheaper, or it'll all come in the one big box, or I'll get all these new shiny stuff, or these Kickstarter exclusive stuff, and buying like expansions for a game that is already bigger than I'll probably ever play. So then I end up with more stuff than I know what to do with. That was my kind of the stuff that I was really that was the stuff that I kind of fell down about, I think. I'll just dive in here as well. I think I've missed some stuff, but I'll dive in. Jason saying he's been holding out on Legion until it gets more variety. Yeah, I think let's talk about what did I see the other day? I forget now, but I think there's talk about some new factions coming for Legion as well. Adam Edgar, nice to see you, mate. How are you doing? Says I can only get live chat on the work computer. It no longer exists on my Apple devices. So good morning, everybody. That's a bit strange, mate. It always comes through okay on my phone, and it's all right. It's always okay on my MacBook as well. That's a bit strange. James is saying, "Hey, future boy." George is saying narratives wise, so into Shadows of Brimstone. David Mackay is saying mainly a space issue, that, and I know that as soon as I buy it, a better version will be out in a couple of weeks. Yeah, one of the things, and I think I've mentioned this before, one of the reasons I stopped kind of getting caught up in the Kickstarter hype was a lot of things I'd bought on Kickstarter, I backed them, I paid the Kickstarter price for them, and before I'd even received my copy, there were gaming stores that were selling it, the Kickstarter versions as well, with discount than what I'd actually backed it at Kickstarter. So for example, Resident Evil 2 was a good example of there was a store selling Resident Evil 2 Kickstarter version cheaper than I paid for it at Kickstarter. Hellboy was another one. Element Games had the Hellboy Kickstarter edition in for cheaper than I'd paid at Kickstarter, and I hadn't even received mine yet. So it's not even like I'm getting it 6 months before they're on sale in store. So actually I could say, well, yeah, it's cheaper, but I've had it for 6 months or something like that. I could have actually not had that money tied up for 18 months and just went to the store and bought it. And that's why, unless there is something I really, really wanted Kickstarter now, I tend to think I'll wait until it's available in store, even if it's a little bit more expensive. At least by that point, I'll have seen the reviews. I'll get people's thoughts on it. I'll be more informed about whether it's actually something that I really want. So yeah, I've really kind of weighed that stuff. Robert saying he's bought into the hype when he was younger. Okay, a couple of years ago, but I told myself to take a step back and wait a bit. Yeah, 100%, mate. Jason says, wish Armada got a bit more love. Yeah, it doesn't seem to get that much stuff, does it? James is saying, oh, Kickstarter back for $1. Was that something that I missed further back? I must have missed that comment, mate. I'm not sure what it was relevant for. You can back for a dollar, which basically gets you involved in the Kickstarter, and you can wait until the pledge manager opens. But to be fair, I think if you're kind of on the fence about it, is it even worth backing it for a dollar? Like it's almost a case of you either want it or you don't. I'm always a bit funny about those kind of stuff. Luke says, I was worried about Mythic losing their way until Hell closed last week for over 1.5 million. Something has definitely changed though. I must admit, Hell did not interest me in the slightest when I saw the gameplay. People are backing that for what they always back Mythic stuff for. Tons and tons of miniatures. And yeah, I mean, this Solomon Kane is massively delayed. That's a game that basically got arms and legs as well. 1.5 version of Joan of Arc is running a bit behind as well. And not just because of the coronavirus stuff. I just think that the company doesn't sell anything in stores. They've basically created this business that is based upon selling stuff to Kickstarter, reaching big numbers, loads of miniatures, selling it to Kickstarter, moving on, or then even worse in my opinion, fixing the problems with the rule sets with a 1.5 version. And I'm not keen on getting on board with that kind of stuff. Super Fantasy Brawl for me was going to be the first game that was going to be kind of retail. It's going to be the first game that was going to have kind of competitive play or organised play. And the rule set was really kind of already pretty polished before it went to Kickstarter. So I was less kind of worried about that. And it was a lower entry point at price as well. And I played the game and really enjoyed it. The other stuff, things like Joan of Arc, Right Busters, absolutely love the miniatures. No idea about the gameplay. It didn't really excite me when I saw it kind of played on different channels and stuff. I played Solomon Kane at the UK Games Expo. Not really my kind of game, but I'm sure it's a great game. And to be fair, Hell I think falls into that same kind of category. These huge big boxes of stuff where actually I feel like there's almost too much stuff in them to appreciate it, really, to appreciate the game. Adam saying, bought yourself a red paint and handle your Palmsy. I even heard Andy talking about the fact they're so good they don't need marketing. Christian says, yeah, Mythic have lost me after Super Fantasy Brawl and the disbanding of the UK office. I won't be backing their products again. Yeah, I mean, the UK office was kind of a big part of where I felt like they'd kind of lost their way a little bit. However, rules-wise as well, I think there's I don't like the fact of it when a game comes out and then very quickly there's a 1.5 version coming hot on its heels to fix the issues that came out with the one that people have spent lots of money on. That it never really sits right with me. And I know some games kind of like if you take 40k, I know they have a new rule set that comes kind of on a 3-yearly basis or whatever it is. But all companies do like FAQs and do updates and things. What they don't do is they don't then just... There's some big mistakes in some of the games, to be fair. Vijay says, a key to resisting is to read about Bernier's mate. Seriously, once you see behind the curtain, resisting becomes a lot easier. Yeah, I to be fair, I'm in a good place with that kind of stuff. Glenn says, sometimes variety can be nice in this hobby, having 2 or 3 games to hop around, mix things up from time to time. If you can think you can manage another game, then hype for another game is okay. I agree, mate. I could never commit to just playing one game for the rest of my kind of gaming life, if you like. I love to play lots of different things, and that's why I've got to be very selective about the games that I choose. They tend to be games that are not overly complex in their rules. They're not what I would call lifestyle games where I have to absolutely throw myself headlong into the rules, absorb everything about them, like spend my entire life painting an army for them, all that kind of stuff. They need to be a bit more simplified. It's why games from Mantic do well for me, kind of in my mental headspace. It's why Warcry works for me. There are certain games that just fit quite well. It's why I love board games, because I don't feel like I don't need to be great at them. I don't need to master the fine kind of tactical details. I can just play it and enjoy the playing experience, if you like. Kieran's in as well. Nice to see you, Kieran. How are you doing? Where are we at? Where? Oh, it just jumped on my screen. That's why. I'll just dive back in again. Paul Jones says, must admit I'm looking forward to the new Warhammer Fantasy Battles, only because that's what I used to play as a kid. Only got back in this hobby when Conquest came out. I think that's a really good example, mate, to be fair. I never played Fantasy. I had no interest in Fantasy when I was younger, and I've never played it. So actually, I'm not really getting caught up in any kind of early hype for that kind of stuff. And I think it's really telling is that they're drip feeding a bit of information about it, but they know it's quite a distance off. So they're not ramping up that hype like they do for other stuff, and I think that's what I mean about like not starting too early, if you like. But yeah, for that one for me, that's not something I'll get caught up in the hype with that one, because it doesn't interest me at the moment. Further down the line, if something really interesting comes along, I might do. Warcry is a great example of a game that I just wasn't on board with at all. Didn't really like the sound of it. Thought it wasn't for me. I read the rules and completely did a 180, completely changed my mind about it, and I absolutely love that game now. So I'm open to having my opinion changed, if you like. Jamie says, the big question for me is the choice of more for games I already have or buy new different stuff. I think for me, mate, where that comes in is what will I get to the table most often? Am I better off investing in a game that I already play and that I'm playing with my gaming group or with my friends, or actually are my friends looking at something else as well, and we're all going to kind of dive into something new and you know, like we've maybe played enough of that game now, we're ready for something new, we're ready for a change. I think that's a big part of it for me, to be fair. Vijay says he broke his Kickstarter hype addiction by enforcing some strict rules. Must have solo player mode, must be from a company with a good track record, must have a good game mechanics demoed in a video. I think demoing games is absolutely critical. I would in fact, I don't think I've ever backed a game that I hadn't seen played previously or hadn't had a chance to play myself. I've been really fortunate, like Hellboy, I was part of the playtest team early on. I got a chance to kind of get behind the scenes. Super Fantasy Brawl, I got to play a lot of it. So I knew what I was getting with those games. But yeah, it's Solo play is less of an issue for me. It's a good bonus, but yeah, a reputable company is by far probably one of the most important things for me. I've been really lucky. I've never had any disasters with Kickstarter, but I think I'm probably wary like you are as well. Palmsy's saying, yeah, well hyped about Old World because of nostalgia reasons, but I think it's a long way off. Paul's saying, yeah, about 2 or 3 years. Adam says, at least I can tag people now. I have to hop off the chat when everyone else starts at 8 AM, otherwise it'll slow down the server too much. My old company where I worked in Manchester, it was absolutely garbage, the network, when I was in that office there. Brand new office, really nice. And I was complaining to the IT guy and basically said, look, when I work from home, I don't have any of these issues. And he said, well, what kind of connection have you got at home? And I said, well, I've got I think it's like a 72 meg connection or something like that. And he went, oh, well, that's almost double what we've got for the entire office here. It's like, yeah, no wonder. There was somebody basically was trying to save like a 10 gigabyte file. We're trying to trying to archive some stuff to a hard drive, and it essentially basically coming from the network, it basically just ground to a halt. People couldn't even make phone calls. Nightmare, that kind of stuff. Paul Jones says gives him a chance to the small mortgage to build an army. Palmsy saying I would only back Kickstarters now if they were my mates, I think. If BlackJack or Christian did one, I'd back it, but just to support. And to be fair, mate, I appreciate that, first of all. I haven't got a Kickstarter at the minute. But I think that's kind of where Kickstarter was. It was about kind of getting, sort of making dreams happen for people that couldn't necessarily get financial backing from like to make a dream happen kind of thing. It's a bit of a different industry now, Kickstarter. Alex is saying, completely with you on Hell. While ever a Kickstarter is pushing miniatures more than a game system itself, I'm happy to pass. Yeah, that's definitely kind of, that was the impression I got. I feel like too often now, it's about the kind of like the amount of plastic that's in a box as opposed to how good the game is. Adam says Andy Bird is dancing bobblehead Kickstarter. Reluctant Artie, nice to see you, mate. How are you doing? Says excellent discussion, Andy. That mimics my own experience and current approach to Kickstarter. Glad I can join tonight. Nice to have you in, mate, and I hope you're well as well. Chuck and Deb Taylor say, I believe the people factor is so important. The game can be mediocre to good, but with great friends, the whole gaming experience becomes top shelf. 100%. As I mentioned earlier on, a game is only as good as the fun you get from it. It can be the most perfect rule set ever. It can be the most balanced armies playing against each other. But if it's just not fun, or the people you're playing with are not enjoying it, or you're not enjoying playing against them, the game is irrelevant. And this kind of gets back to the point that John was making. He plays Kings of War at his local sort of gaming store. He's really enjoying it. He's playing it with people who also love enjoying it. Why get caught up in the hype for another game when he's achieving exactly what he's setting out to do in his hobby? He's enjoying his play experience with people he enjoys playing with. And at the end of the day, that's what we all do. We love to come together and we love to talk about the new stuff, and we love to pick holes with this one and say, I don't really like that one. I love the look of this one. This seems really interesting. Not interested in that one. That's all great and it's all healthy. But what it all boils down to is, are you getting enjoyment from your hobby? That might be painting miniatures. There's no point painting miniatures just because they're cheap. If they're horrible to paint, you're not enjoying it. There's no point painting miniatures for the biggest like sort of hype game, if you like, if you don't like the look of those miniatures. There's no point playing the games just because they're the biggest game if you don't enjoy it. There's no point playing a game that you actually might really like if nobody else plays it and you can't get any games of it. It all comes down to basically kind of, I've played some awful games and had really, really good fun because I've loved playing against the people I've played against. And I've played some great games that I just didn't enjoy because the experience of playing against those particular people wasn't particularly good. George is, that's just jump there where we are at. What was George saying? Let's go back and find out. Anyone else buy just for the minis rather than the game? I never buy just for the minis, mate. I'm always about, the bit I enjoy with the hobby is playing the game. I love painting. I love reading the lore. I love kind of like, I don't enjoy list building so much. But the play experience is what I want. I want that social interaction with another player or another set of players, if you like. That's the bit I enjoy. And I love having them all painted, and I love having lovely kind of themed tables and nice terrain and all that kind of stuff. But it's the play experience for me. I would never buy a game just for the miniatures unless I absolutely loved the miniatures and I just wanted them to paint, kind of thing. Peter Nicholas, we are now with Dancing Blackjack Legacy and desktop speaker pattern bending. Yogaman says, hey folks, just dropped in while these painkillers for the sciatica kick in so I can get some sleep. Have a look over this tomorrow. Interesting topic. Thank you, Yogaman. And yes, I hope that sciatica gets over the worst of it very quickly for you, mate. VG says, I don't mind 1.5 versions as long as the people that got version 1 get a free update. Yeah. The problem is, in certain instances, you've got a rule book basically that is now absolutely useless. A nice hardback rule book that you pledged for and you backed the game for, and it's absolutely useless now. And you can have a free PDF version, but if you want a hardback version, you have to buy something else in order to get it. And that's the bit that I didn't like. The fact that they had to reprint an entire new rule book to fix the issues so quickly after the launch is what I think was one of the things that soured me on that kind of stuff. Kieran says, as a hobby that attracts people with social issues, where does hype verge on window salesman, passive hard sell? It can be dangerous. I think that the problem is that you can't really put that on the companies, to be fair. Like, people who have kind of social anxiety issues, learning difficulties, whatever the case may be, are in pretty much every hobby that's out there, whether it's photography, whether it's fishing, whether it's kind of buying football shirts to support your local team kind of thing, whether it's technology, whether it's sort of graphics cards for PCs and all that kind of stuff. Like, the people that you're talking about are not just limited to our hobby, so you can't really put that onus on the company supplying the miniatures, unfortunately. It's a society thing, I suppose. Camo says, thanks for Infinity videos. More Code 1, please. This Friday, mate, my Code 1 review will be coming. All of my stuff's painted up now. All looks amazing. I'm over the moon with it. This Friday, you'll be seeing my Code 1 review. Mike G says, I feel the announced Warhammer Fantasy was to draw away people from converting their now useless old world armies to Kings of War 3rd. I'm not sure, Mike, because they've not really said what it is. They've not said what scale it's going to be. They've not going to said whether it's going to be kind of multi-based, whether it's going to be exactly the same as Warhammer Fantasy. There's so little information. I think if that was what they were wanting, they would have given more information away that made people kind of hold onto those armies, if you like. Brennick says, I think the biggest issue for me is when a game is going to have any traction with a gaming group. I've tried pushing various games with varying success at my own cost. Yeah, unfortunately, that can be a real struggle at times. You can get really hyped for something, but if your local player base or if they're just not into it, for example, you're going to struggle to get some games. Sometimes you end up having to sort of take it into your own hands and try and grow a player base, if you like. Tony says, my board game habit is definitely worse than my wargaming skirmish one. Yeah, I certainly got into that a little while ago when I was kind of getting much more kind of heavily into board games and stuff. And it's dead easy to buy a board game to play once and go, oh yeah, I really enjoyed that. Okay, I'll put that to one side. Right, what should we play next weekend? And it's funny, with tabletop miniatures games like war games, I will happily play that every week, kind of play multiple games of it. With board games, I tend to want to jump around and play lots of different things, or play whatever the kind of, when the mood takes me, what kind of a game do I want to play tonight? And I think board gamers are generally like that. And that's how you end up with huge collections of stuff that hardly ever sees the table. I kind of thinned out some of my collection a while ago, but I can probably count on one hand the amount of games that I had on those shelves that I'd played maybe more than 5 times. And I just don't think that's good value for money, if I'm honest. VG says solo play is key for him. Only really has one mate who's games with regularly. And we only get one day a fortnight to play. Occasionally his wife, and she's super selective. I don't enjoy solo play as much, which is why I think it's something I don't tend to look for. It's a bonus, and I like it because it allows me to play the game and learn how to play, which means that I can then try and teach somebody else how to play. And because it has solo play, it tends to be cooperative as well, which is something that my wife likes playing, which means a game will probably get to the table more often. But yeah, it's not a deal breaker for me, I wouldn't say. Peter says, do you think GW respond to other game systems? I think they have to at some point. I don't think they're so arrogant to think that they're above everybody else. I think there's certain things that you see in their games that are definitely reflections of things that you would see in other games. And I think it would be very naive of them to not see what innovative, easy for you to say. It would be very naive of them to not take notice of the innovative things that are going on elsewhere in the hobby. Excuse me. Bomsey saying solo player definitely a plus for him, but mainly just buy things to build and paint. Yeah, if that's the bit of the hobby you enjoy, mate, that's cool, isn't it? Matthew says it was in the Robotech Kickstarter disaster. Still have all the minis. I may still give it a try someday. I don't know much about that, mate, to be fair. Adam's saying, also as a stretch goal, token Andy Ballhead that says it's jumped off the top of my screen where we are, and many other Andy-isms. I tell you what, I'm going a bit rosy tonight. It is like an oven in here. I've even got the window open as well to try and get some airflow through. It is like an oven. Peterson, really not looking forward to Old World. Kings of War fills the gap nicely. Yeah, and I think potentially the GW might be looking at that. I think we've definitely seen an increase in kind of like rank and file skirmish games. Not skirmish games, sorry, rank and file fantasy games, and maybe GW think it's time to revisit it. Maybe they're seeing that that's a part of the market that's potentially growing and they don't have an option in that. Clydo says, doesn't really hype yourself anymore. Back to League of Infamy because I like the minis, can always use them. We'll see about the game. And as mentioned, I like to support Mantic and get the game done. I never backed League of Infamy, and I played it at a Mantic Open Day, and I actually really enjoyed playing it. I thought it was a great game. The reason I didn't back it was because I played it, I knew that game would play better with 4 or 5 players, where you're really kind of stabbing each other in the back and working kind of like as a team but against each other. I knew that game would never get to the table, like for me playing it and get the best out of it. I just think as a 2-player experience, it was it would miss a lot of what was in there, if you like. So as much as I love the minis, as much as I love the game, I knew for me personally it would never ever see the table, and that was why I didn't back it. Ruth's off now, says night everyone. Thank you, Ruth. I'll catch you later. Claudio saying he's pretty hyped for Legion, finally got into it, but only piece by piece. Not bought anything till I played these 800 points. I just got this Friday, now I get 1 or 2 pieces. I to be fair, I for all I got kind of like, I got hyped and I got on board with Star Wars Legion, I didn't buy anything else outside of the core set because there was nothing that really took my fancy at that point in time, and I painted it all up and I played games with the core set. So to be fair, I have played it and I do enjoy the game, and I keep looking at it now to maybe get back into it again. But there's a lot more choice for Legion now, which is what kind of makes me think about looking at it twice. Alex is saying he agrees there. Kickstarter is no longer a place for one-man bands with dream projects. It's big business now, driven by the hype machine and powered by fans. To be honest, I've spoke to companies who've said, like when I say, so why do you do Kickstarter? And it's like, it's almost free marketing. Like it's its own hype, if you like. If you put something on Kickstarter, like that's your marketing campaign done for you, really. So I understand why they do it. Let me find out where that's up to there. Wow, where did that go? I'm just diving back in again. Adam says we had someone update their iPhone during work hours and it locked up the internet for the entire company. 5 stores until it was complete. Wow, man. Mr. Trainer Guy says he's backed some board games on Kickstarter. They're cool, but I've only backed ones that are solid gameplay, story, or random story games. Not just oh shiny big minis. I've also backed comics on Indiegogo. Never backed anything on Indiegogo before. Peter says worst games are usually solo games. I just can't stand myself, really. That's probably a personal trait, mate. Robert says he's only backed 2 games on Kickstarter. One was supposed to ship in June, but it's been pushed back to August. Yeah, unfortunately, there's quite a lot of stuff. Adam's saying, oi, there's 110 watching, but 75 likes. Get liking, people. Thank you very much. I've got no idea how many likes we've got. I can't see it on my screen. VJ says, I would call it a huge Kickstarter game. I'd like, if the chat gets above 100 likes, it would be nice, and it has done tonight, it would be nice to get 100 likes in the, on the video, if you like. The last few weeks, we've had over 100 likes at the end of the stream, and it's been awesome. VJ says, I've got a couple of huge Kickstarter games with tons of minis that will never get painted. Full Sail and Monumental. I love the idea of having them painted, but I know I'll never get to them. Good evening, Paul Inman. How are you doing? He says, I'm going to fly in the face of nearly all of you now. I have backed loads of Kickstarters just for the miniatures. For me, some of the games I've backed, the game being good has just been a bonus. To be fair, mate, there's nothing wrong with that one. There's no right or wrong. You back for whatever you want, but for me personally, yeah, the gaming's the bit I enjoy. I love painting. I love the painting experience, but I love to paint. Like, for example, I don't really have my miniatures on display. I've got loads of painted stuff, but they're all tucked away just to kind of stop them getting damaged and things. I don't really paint to put them on display. I paint to enjoy the kind of the aesthetic of playing like a fully painted game. That's what I enjoy. So yeah, it's all about the game for me, to be fair. Alex is saying some people clearly earn way too much money. Not jealous at all. I used to have a good job, mate. I used to have a well-paying job. Now I've got a great job, it just doesn't pay well. But I'm way happier, that's for sure. Jimmy Newton said, I bought Carnival for the minis. Finally got to play it just before lockdown. Turns out I really enjoy playing too, but the minis are still the main draw. Should definitely check it out. It's a game I've always liked the look of. I must admit, I was tempted to back the Kickstarter for that, because to be fair, one of the things that really kind of clicked for me was just how cool the TT combat terrain looked. I loved those kind of like Venice kind of streets and things. It looked really awesome, and I'd want to play it just to play it on that beautiful board, if you like. I know nothing about the game, to be fair, though. Adam says, I've scared some people. I've only 104 watching now. It bobs around, mate. It's kind of like it's been pretty steady over the 100 all night, which is good, because it's not really been a GW one tonight. I know if I do a GW topic, that it's always going to attract a few more people, if you like. But it's nice to do these kind of topics and like still get some good numbers. Of course, as soon as I've said that it's at 100 now, will we drop below the 100? Although, to be fair, how long have we been going? What time is it now? It is 20 to 11, to be fair. We've been going over an hour and a half. Honestly, good night all. Thanks for the informative and thought-provoking chat. Gave me something to think about. Was about to pull the trigger on Kill Team and tipping my toe into 40k. And I love Venice, beautiful city. Yeah, mate, I'm not trying to put anybody off. I'm just trying to maybe see if people making an expensive mistake, that's all. And honestly, I'd stay a bit longer in the AOS realm and build upon Warcry longer. Thank you, Christian, sharing the affiliate links and things. I'll have a new affiliate link to share with you in the coming weeks. So if anybody is going to buy a new 40k, I'll be sharing something with you that hopefully if you buy it through the affiliate link, you'll obviously get really great service. You'll get fantastic service from the company that I'm going to share with you. You'll get a great price for it as well, and I'll make a small commission from that as well. So yeah, we'll talk about that coming up soon. Adam says, can you get an affiliate link for Amazon Australia, please? I need to have a look, mate, because the way Amazon's set up, it's a funny one, mate. It seems to link you to your regions, so I need to try and work out how to do like multi-region Amazon stuff. To be fair, I don't make a penny from Amazon. I don't think anybody shops through the Amazon link, to be fair. George is saying Carnival. Is it Carnivalia? Is it Carnival? Is it Carnival? I'm not really even sure how to pronounce it. It's a beautiful game. Alex is saying there's a definite case of board games becoming increasingly disposable, but I think it's moot because of the sheer amount of new stuff coming. Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think it's got nothing to do with it being a good game or a bad game. It's just a case of it's the new shiny-itis. There's something new coming. I need to play the new thing, especially when everybody's talking about the latest game. There's a feeling that if you're not playing the latest game, you're not a real gamer, and that's terrible. Like it's almost a little bit of gatekeeping really, and unfortunately, if you're kind of like in that online community, there's a bit of a pull to almost be playing the latest games, to be able to talk about the latest games, and that's a bit of a shame really. Where are we at? George says, Andy, still playing Carcassonne? I do, mate. Me and my wife play it kind of semi-regularly. It's on my shelf down. I've got like a selection of board games in my living room on the kind of shelves at the back of my living room that seem to be our kind of like go-to. So if we're having a bit of a game at night, it's just, I tend to just turn around and go, oh yeah, we'll just play one of those. So I do tend to like sort of, obviously things like Pandemic, things like Carcassonne, things like, what's the Lucky Duck games, investigating thing with scanning the cards, I forget what it's called now. Oh, you know the one I mean anyway. It's things like that's kind of on the shelf really. Those are the kind of things that we kind of go back to. Scott says looked at Carnival but held off. I don't know people that would play it. Yeah, I think that's kind of the case with a lot of games, mate. Glenn says they should never have got rid of fantasy. They could have just shifted it to specialist game status. I think the problem was they would never have been able to push AOS if they were still making fantasy at the same time. And I think the problem with fantasy is I don't think it was kind of it was a bit of an anchor around their neck. Basically, they weren't really making any money from it. So I get why they did it, and it's obviously been a financial success for them. But obviously they've seen something that's making them bring something back. Peter says about getting value out of something. I've sat down and painted about 20 times as much as I've played in my life. I see that as getting value out of something, even if it sits on a shelf. I completely agree, mate, but I think when I'm talking about getting value out of something, I think when you talk about board games, most board gamers don't paint their miniatures, and to be fair, a lot of board games don't come with miniatures, so they tend to just sit and gather dust when it comes to like kind of like getting value out of them. And there's been kind of like tabletop games, like there's the amount of times I've bought starter sets for stuff that I've really been interested in it. It's come, I might have built the miniatures and then I've done nothing with them. I've not even played the game. I've not painted the minis. If you get value out of it, you get value out of it, mate, and that's personal to everybody really. Tony's saying he knows quite a few people who've got Carnival, but it seems very few of them actually play as opposed to collect and paint and build stuff for it and never get around to playing. One of them games where you just kind of like set up a nice board and just go, oh yeah, that looks nice. I do that, to be fair. Alex recently compiled a list of completed a bit of a challenge he set for himself called A Game a Day in May. I saw that on Instagram, mate. On Twitter, mate. It says no prizes for guessing what I was doing, but I did get to play some classic titles from a few years ago. I think that's one of the things, mate, is it doesn't matter how old the game is. If it's either a good game and you enjoy playing it, play it. And if you've never played it before, it's still a new game. It doesn't matter how old it is. Like Carcassonne was a new game to me the first time I played it. It doesn't matter that it was like 20 years old. Greg Cherry says that's not true. Relic Blade one-man show started his new campaign today, funded right away. I think what Alex was saying, and I would agree with Alex to be fair, is it used to be just all made up of kind of one-man bands. However, it is very vastly dominated by big companies now using Kickstarter. There are still some one-man bands on there, but they're by far the minority now. I think that's the thing. And I'm saying 84 likes. Let's keep going. Chronicles of Crime. That was it, Joel. Thank you very much. I knew somebody would remind me what it was. Let's see if I can see. 87 likes. There's 90. Oh, I'm sure we can get a few more likes. We can squeeze a few more likes out of the crowd here. Let's see if we can get that number up. I'd love to hit 100 likes tonight. That would be a nice little personal achievement for me. 92 we're at. Come on, folks, you can do it. Christian says, I shop through the Amazon link all the time, just dropped a significant amount of money through it for my new PC build, plus everything else I've bought in the past 6 months. I'll have to look, mate, because I'm literally not making a penny from it. So I don't know if something's changed or what. I'll have to look into it, mate. I just basically keep getting the email every month that says, you've not gone over the minimum amount to kind of like, because I think it's like YouTube ad revenue. Once you hit like a number, and I think it's only 25 quid on Amazon, once you've got £25 worth of stuff, you can then basically have a payout, or you can get like an Amazon voucher or something like that. But yeah, I've not had anything since I started doing Amazon affiliate stuff. Six in the Head says, me and my missus like playing Underworld and Trivial Pursuit on Switch. I always win that, ever done until I said that. Busey says, Blackstone Fort is classed as a board game. I suppose it is in a way. I think there's a lot of crossovers now, mate. Like, I mean, technically it's a board game. You're not using. I think the thing that for me that tends to differentiate a board game and a miniatures game tends to be if you're using some kind of a measuring device. There are obviously slight outliers. So you've got things like Dead Zone doesn't use a tape measure. You've got things like what was the other one that was in my head? I can't remember now. Like things like Blood Bowl which is kind of a miniatures game. Technically, it's a board game. So there are some kind of crossovers. It doesn't need to be black and white, to be fair, but I think technically Blackstone Fortress is a board game with miniatures as opposed to a miniatures game, if you like. 97 likes. That's awesome. We're almost there, folks. Steve's saying only backed miniatures Kickstarters now, as I always have a use for them. Glenn says, how well is this super secret affiliate stocked when you're planning to go with Andy? I find a lot of online discounters tend to be out of stock, but will order it in. The one I'm talking about, mate, has fantastic stocks. I've used them myself. Their delivery is fantastic. I have ordered something and it's come the next day, less than 24 hours when I ordered it. And from using them myself to kind of like to try them out, it's what sort of fast delivery and good customer service is one of the things I've been looking for, because I want to make sure if I'm kind of asking you to spend your money at a particular store, that kind of like you're getting your money's worth. So yes, the one I will share with you, it's not 100% confirmed yet, but if I do, you should get fantastic service from them, and their stocks are really good. Peter says, go to board game. Any of the 6 D&D Adventure Series games. Go to board game, sorry, yeah. Glenn says, I always buy the items in stock and not... Yeah, I'm the same, mate. If they're not in stock, I won't buy. And I'll either not buy it at all, or I'll look elsewhere, to be fair. Paul Inman says, I play a lot of... And sorry, the reason for that is I've been stung so many times with companies that say, oh yeah, I can order them in. Like Wayland Games used to be a big one for that. You would wait forever for stock to come in. So yeah, I tend not to entertain that kind of stuff now. Paul said he plays a lot of RPGs, so a lot of the Kickstarters he's backed were for collections of miniatures. Yeah, I think if you're playing RPG stuff, mate, that's probably a really good consideration, really. 6 in the head, she's won the last couple of games this week, but to be frank, I generally kick her ass. David saying, well, not all work waits for no man, even if they want a decent lie-in. Take care, mate. Don't work too hard, and we'll see you again soon. Greg Cherry says, I'm old. How do I like this? How do I like it? So you'll see there should be like a thumbs up, mate, underneath the video. There should be a place where you can give it like a thumbs up to like the video. If you click on the thumbs up, that's where it goes. Tony Booth says, got my lovely mug today. Thank you very much. Glad I kept getting the emails to say they'd all been delivered. Actually, like once they'd been delivered, I got like a message back to say your thing's been delivered. So that was cool. He's actually going to use it for drinking tea out of. I know, crazy, right? I had whiskey in mine last week, mate. There's nothing crazy about it. Where will up to? Paul saying Blackstone Fortress is a board game. It's in a category I call miniature board games. That's separate from board games and miniature war games. Yeah, I'd agree, mate. It's that kind of middle ground, that crossover I was talking about. Peter saying if I clicked like 110 minutes before the stream started, seriously, it was at like 5 likes already then. Yeah, it did have it. We've just hit 100 likes, by the way. Thank you very much, folks. Always nice to get them likes up. The reason I ask you to do this, it's not just for my own vanity. It's because actually what happens is YouTube put a number of like parameters together to decide whether they share this out to other people. One thing is basically how long you watch for. One is how many people watch it. So if lots of people watch it and they watch it for a long time, that tells YouTube that actually the video is worth sharing with other people. And if you click the like button, it also is another metric that tells YouTube, actually, not only did they watch it for quite a while, but they liked it as well. So that's once YouTube see those kind of things happening. Another thing that they like to see is they like to see you commenting in the comments of the videos as well, like after they've been live. All of those things combined starts to trigger something off in YouTube that says, oh, people are commenting, people are watching, they're watching for a long time, they're liking the video, we should share it out to more people. And that's kind of one of the reasons I ask it. It's a bit of a pain in the backside, but those are the reasons that I ask, really. Where we are. Greg saying, just see $. Don't click the $sign, mate. That is for doing kind of like super chats and things. You should see it right underneath the video, not where the chat is, just right underneath the video, where the title for the video is. Oh, you're seeing he's found it. Yes. Luke says, best be off, going for an early run in the morning. All the best in case it kills me. Nice knowing you, mate. Take care. Matthew says, got to go early. Roofer is here. Have to give him an earful. Yeah, take care, mate. See you later. VG says, oh, believe me, I know. Believe me, we all know you had whiskey last week, Andy, and the happy dance was gold. I did have the dance before I had the whiskey, to be fair, so it wasn't a drunken dance. Six in the head says, can't believe the one stream I'm missing, Andy's dance. Yeah, well, I hit 8,000 subscribers last week. It kind of happened while we're on the stream, and it was just like what do I do? I felt like I kind of celebrated somehow, that was all. Adam says, one of the reasons I always go back and watch the entire streams from beginning to end later, and always try to comment as well. You do, Adam, and I really appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much. Andrew said it's all about that algorithm. Unfortunately, mate, you're a little bit of a kind of you know, you're stuck with it really. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't really. But it's my channel isn't really set up about getting lots and lots of views. But what happens is it doesn't always kind of promote all of the videos to all of the subscribers. It will send you a link to the video if you've clicked the bell icon, so that if that basically tells YouTube, I want you to tell me every video this creator does when it comes out. So if you've clicked the bell icon and clicked all videos, I think it is, you'll get that notified. But people that have just clicked subscribe, if they haven't watched the video for a couple of weeks, it assumes you're not interested, so it stops sending the video out to you. However, if I make a video that performs better than my previous videos, YouTube will then say, oh, he's doing something different. This one must be a particularly good one. We'll send it out to more of the subscribers. And then if somebody clicks on it, then they basically then it starts to kind of sending videos back out to them again. It's a bit of a long-winded thing, but yeah, all I'm kind of do is trying to make good videos. Hopefully somebody likes them. Where are we at? Yeah. Robert saying, yeah, I missed the dancing too. Palmsy saying, yeah, I missed the dancing because it was the first time I saw the girlfriend for 93 days. I'm sure you were doing your own dancing, mate. Let's not worry about it. Krabby says, apparently there's a meme. Yeah, I wonder who did that, Krabby. Scott says there, do the dance again. I ain't doing the dance again, mate. You get that dance again at 10,000 subscribers. Where are we? Greg says, everyone definitely check out the new Relic Blade Kickstarter. Great dude, fantastic, simple but deep fantasy skirmish game. Minis are excellent. Yeah, to be fair, Greg, I had a meeting set up with I forget the guy's name now, but I had a meeting set up with him at Adepticon. We were going to kind of hang out and have a bit of a chat and stuff and play some games, but unfortunately, yeah, I didn't get there. I ain't doing the dance again. With 10,000 subscribers, you can have the dance. And Glenn says, mission accomplished, Andy. Your videos are always good. Thank you very much, buddy. Scott says, I was on the stream. Sean, that's the guy. I couldn't remember Sean's name. Yes. And 6 in the head, I try my best. And Greg says, he's swell. Well, folks, we're coming up to 11 o'clock. So I think what we'll do is we'll start to wrap it up there. I will be streaming again on Wednesday for a hobby hangout. So please, if you fancy just kind of make yourself a brew, get your brushes out, get some paints out. If you want to sit and paint, we'll be sitting painting on Wednesday night. So please do come along. Watch out. I'll probably get the link up for that tomorrow. So watch out for that one. Please do, again, the only reason that this is possible, the reason I can do this full time is the support that you do, people who donate in the chat, people that support me on Patreon, people that buy the t-shirts, the merchandise, all that kind of things. You'll see a list of everybody's names coming up at the end, those that are pledging at the $5 or more level. The ones that I've upgraded today, I haven't had a chance to put them in there, but they'll be in for for Wednesday's video. So yeah, if you do like what I do and you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this, please do consider checking out my Patreon. So thank you very much, folks. I will see you all on Wednesday. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now